The next Solution Talk, Breaking Biases and Barriers, Gender Equality in the Digital Age. Please welcome your host, Liz Shoo from Deutsche Welle.
Hello, I'm already here, so I'm not getting any grand entrance or anything. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being super disciplined and super punctual. You are all here and very quiet before starting. And I know that every session that starts after a major lunch break, coffee break, it's always a challenge to get people in the room. So you being here is something that we really appreciate. We're here to talk about breaking barriers and biases and talk about gender equality in the digital age. So I'm really excited about the discussion that we're going to have today. My name is Liz Shoo. I'm a journalist and a TV presenter. I work for Germany's foreign broadcaster Deutsche Welle. And yeah, I'm excited about the session today. It's a session that builds upon the Declaration on Responsible AI, the Hamburg Declaration on Responsible AI for SDGs that was signed yesterday and announced yesterday. I don't know how many of you were at that session, maybe a show of hands. Oh, all right, quite a number of you. So for those who were not able to attend the session, let me just read you a little bit from the declaration. I have it right here. It says, we convene in Hamburg to shape a human-centric, human rights-based, inclusive, open, sustainable, and responsible AI future. We commit to advancing AI for the SDGs, aligning with ongoing international efforts. And then it goes on to say that we want to protect and promote human rights, inclusion, gender equality, human dignity, and safety. So yesterday, during our lunch break, I had a conversation with one of the people who had worked on this declaration. And he's a tech developer, and he told me, you know what, Liz? 99% of developers have no idea about SDGs. I said, okay, that's very interesting. And then he said another thing that was also striking to me. He said, instead of looking for AI solutions and working on AI solutions, maybe we should just start working on digital solutions first, and then dealing with AI will come later. My experts here. Once again? Sorry, I just heard something. Okay, so my experts here, my tech experts are looking at me, giving me this quizzical look. We'll discuss that during our panel. So we live in a world where 244 million fewer women than men have access to the internet. Today, we want to take a look at how we can bridge that gap. But then we also want to go a step further and say, okay, if they all have digital devices, if they have their data packages, what kind of content are they interacting with? If we have already bridged that gap, what if they come across content that, again, will lead to more? Welcome, please. We have one final panelist. Yeah, please, take a seat. Yeah, sure. No, you're welcome. Glad to have you with us. What if the content that they interact with, again, creates other dimensions of discrimination? What if it reinforces gender-based violence and things where it takes us back in fighting for gender equality? So that is something that we're going to be discussing as well today. We have to mention, of course, that there are already positive developments on the UN level, for example. You have the Global Digital Compact. We have something called the High Level Advisory Board on AI. But the things that these frameworks are missing is to address gender-specific risks. So we at this panel want to bridge that gap as well. Before we get to the discussion, we're going to hear some opening remarks from the Secretary General of the International Telecommunication Union. So this is a UN specialized agency that deals with information technology. UN member states are part of the ITU, but you also have 1,000 companies, universities, and also regional and international organizations. So before we start, we're now gonna hear the opening remarks from the Secretary General, Doreen Bogdan-Martin.
Hello, Hamburg Sustainability Conference. I'm honored to join you virtually as you discuss breaking biases and barriers facing women and girls in the digital age. While more people are online than ever before, 2.6 billion are not. And the gender digital divide is far from closed. In fact, it's widening in least developed countries, where just 3 in 10 women use the internet. Millions more women and girls are being left behind all over the world because the digital experience simply isn't safe, affordable, or relevant enough to benefit them. There are so many ways to move the needle, and skills development is one of the most impactful. That's why ITU, the United Nations Agency for Digital Technologies, is highlighting digital transformation to empower women and girls everywhere as we mark our 160th anniversary. That's why we've revitalized the Equals Global Partnership for Gender Equality in the Digital Age to train 100 million women and girls in digital skills by 2035, and 10,000 more individuals through our AI Skills Coalition with women and girls as a main target. And that's why every year in April, we celebrate International Girls in ICT Day so that more young women and girls can see their future in STEM. Breaking biases and barriers means creating space for every girl to grow, to learn, and to lead in an increasingly digital world. The Global Digital Compact provides a framework to do just that by closing the gender digital divide and all digital divides. It calls for inclusive governance, safer digital spaces, and meaningful investment in women's digital skills and leadership. The Hamburg Declaration on AI for SDGs is another positive step forward, providing another framework to ensure AI serves all of humanity, including women and girls. Whether it's building AI skill sets, coordinating frequencies for satellite networks, or building networks of women leaders, ITU is laser focused on leaving no one behind. I want to thank Germany's Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development for their leadership and for collaborating with ITU on our network of women ministers and ICT leaders. Let me leave you with a question. What will it take for every girl and woman to see herself as an architect of her own digital future? I invite you to use this in your panel and to answer that question and to act on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary General of ITU, Doreen Bogdan-Martin. So she left us with a question. What will it take for every girl and woman to see herself as the architect of her own digital future? That is definitely something that we're going to throw at the panel. The Secretary General could not be with us today, but we're happy to have her senior advisor on gender and youth here with us today, Sylvia Poll. So if any one of you wants to learn more about what ITU does exactly, then Sylvia is the person to talk to. All right, now let me introduce you to my esteemed panelists. I'm just going to start right here. We have Ingrid Hoven. She's the managing director of GIZ, which is a service provider for international cooperation development, mainly working together with the German Ministry for Development Cooperation. A warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
We have with us today F. Cleo Kawawaki. You are Director General at the Asia Development Bank. Welcome to you as well.
Thank you.
And right next to you is Florence Toffa. Florence is an award-winning CEO of let me read what it says here, Mobile Web Ghana, that is a tech and entrepreneurship hub. Welcome to you, Florence.
Thank you.
We didn't want to only have one tech expert, but two, and that is why we are very happy to have Juliana Rotich with us today. She's a member of the HSC Advisory Board, but also has been a fintech leader for many, many years, and she's also a CEO. So welcome to you as well, Juliana. So we're talking about breaking barriers and biases. Juliana, what are the kind of barriers that we talk about in the digital age?
So one of the barriers is, like you mentioned earlier, is access, particularly to mobile phones, because a large part of the world, their first computer is actually a phone, right? So barriers to access, affordability, and frankly, varying levels of connectivity in terms of infrastructure and all of the hardware that is required to be able to access not only the internet, but also financial services. But
why does it affect women and girls more than men and boys?
So there's a bit of good news from Kenya, where I'll give you two quick examples. The first one is around financial inclusion, like basically access to financial services on mobile phone. Between 2006 and 2024, the financial inclusion rate has gone from less than 30% to 84.4%. Out of that, so 84.1% is financial inclusion for women, and 85.7% is financial inclusion for men. So the gender gap there is almost closed, right? So, but still, we still have barriers around access and connectivity and affordability. But it's good to have some good news from one of the African countries and can show us one of the things that we need to continue to invest in, which is hardware, financial services, and access. Yeah.
Thank you. So you've talked about challenges, but also have given us positive examples from your home country, Kenya. Florence, what are the barriers that come to your mind when we talk about gender equality? Because you work with young people in Ghana, what are the barriers that they are facing, especially girls?
Thank you very much. I want to start my discussion with a recent experience. I visited a relative in a village, and so when I went, one of the things that shocked me is that I didn't have network connectivity. I couldn't call people in Accra, in the city, and I couldn't even receive WhatsApp messages. If I want to make a call, I need to go and stand at a specific location, like a small spot. And then before I could get cellular connectivity to even make a call. And it just struck me. I was so shocked. And I was thinking, what is the future of the people living in this village? So I took a stroll by the riverside, and in the afternoon, like around 12, I just wanted to explore because, of course, I see women carrying their children. And I was very sad. I was even coming to weep. I was like, what is the future? Like, we are talking about big things, high-level things. But when you go to the ground, the picture is always different, you know. And so I went to the riverside, and I saw kids, 12 years, girls swimming happily. And I was wondering, your counterparts in China, they are learning AI in primary schools. They are learning digital innovation. How can you be the same as somebody who is learning such innovation? I was really, like, the issues are real. Like, the issues are more than just technological divide. They are economic, they are cultural, they are systemic.
Can you talk to us about the cultural issues?
I mean, culturally, like even globally, only 25% of 25% of girls are less likely to even pursue STEM courses. Like when I get girls from senior high school and I'm doing advocacy programs in Ghana, and I ask them, how many of you want to be engineers? How many of you want to be programmers? How many? Because they don't even have role models to watch. Like there are no people the reason is not because they don't have an interest, because they have no exposure in the first place. Because unless you are exposed to something, then you would have an appetite or the desire to even learn it in the first place. So if you have no exposure, you don't even know that it even exists in the first place, And so when you gather girls in a room and you ask them how many, only few, and globally, according to UNICEF, like only 25% are less likely to pursue STEM courses than boys. So more boys are studying STEM courses, and this is cultural. How we bring our girls up, like if you have a girl child, like in the beginning, you are buying dolls, whilst the boys, you are buying them toys, you are buying them things that they can actually fidget, like engineering devices, and the girls, you are buying them dolls. It's cultural. Like, so what if you have parents who haven't been exposed to technology, they can never encourage you to even study STEM. Like if you're a girl.
You're getting a lot of agreement in the room. I see lots of people nodding their head.
Yes.
Ingrid, I want to bring you into the conversation now, because it is important to address gender inequality in the digital age. If we don't do that, how will that affect us reaching other SDGs? Because they're interrelated.
Well, absolutely. I think, first, we know that when we actually not include half of the population worldwide into economic processes, into social life, into political life, actually we are missing big opportunities to achieve the SDG. This is proven. There is analysis, evidence at hand. We have experienced what this matter if you, for instance, include the female perspective when you build up new and transformed energy systems. Because in the past it was said, oh, this is infrastructure, it's gender neutral. It isn't, of course. It isn't. And it starts really bringing actually also female leadership in a sector to design it in a way when it's getting transformed to serve again women and girls. And it's a different perspective that normally when you bring those women into decision-making processes, they bring new issues to the forefront, and this makes a big difference. So I think we know that there are huge opportunities if we digitalize services, if we use AI, we may reach in health system the last mile, people difficult to reach. We may provide better services. We may be more efficient in resource use, resources that are scarce, and where we are going to see abundance in the medium term. But unless those opportunities can be managed by all people in an equal way, we are leaving behind a part of the population. And it may happen because the progress made on AI, its application, it's going to change our economies tremendously. So there might be opportunities for those that are well equipped, and there might be also less opportunities for those that are not skilled. So what about women? They are going to be left behind.
Yeah, you said that there might be opportunities for those that are well equipped. Being well equipped also means having the financial means. So I want to turn to you now, Ms. Kawawaki. Do you also see that there is an inequality when it comes to financing, for example, tech startups and digital solutions? And how are you addressing that as Director General?
So we see that all the time. I mean, you see, we have a ADB venture fund, right? And a lot of tech startups come and knock on our doors. Do we see any women? Yeah, hardly. And
but
you're
why?
seeing that as a culture, and and we get this all the time, right? I mean, you go to buy a phone and they treat you as if you were mentally incompetent because you're an older woman buying a phone. I mean, it's ingrained in our culture now that women are not good at tech. And that's where I think we have to go to the core of the issue at the education stage. And ADB, we are trying to go very big at the basics of education and putting digital in the education systems as well. And then I think the most important thing is that what is not measured is not done. So we put measurements in place to make sure that women's voices are heard when we're designing the digital public infrastructure. when we're designing, like, for instance, I mean, leadership, you said, right?
Yeah.
Digital, when would you see digital leadership for Gen? So we have specific components in like our Cambodia rural digitalization project that we have a certain portion of leaders that are women. And of course, that's a condition. And we put the training behind it. We put the community behind it. And what it does is amazing is that when they become digitally literate, there's much more possibility for them to go to the commercial banking market to get SME loans because they have predictive measures now of what kind of revenues they might get. So measuring success or failure, adjusting, and then educating the leaders, female leaders specifically, is some of the measures that we're trying to do in our dedication to gender equality in digital space.
Brilliant. So we already have arrived at the solutions part.
Sorry.
But I want to, no. I find that really good because we want to spend most of the time, of course, talking about solutions here. But one thing that I still want us to talk about, Juliana, is to look at AI and to see how that is creating biases. Let's talk about the inbuilt biases that are in AI already inbuilt and how we can overcome that to make it more gender sensitive.
So this is an issue that I care about because I was been involved in the AI space for the longest time before it became so
mainstream
cool.
And everybody like ChatGPT.
So one of the organizations that I co-founded called Ushahidi, it's a crowdsourcing platform that enables people to gather data points from various areas, and it's useful for crisis mapping, for mapping cities, for mapping. Now even there's work that is happening supported by GIZ to map climate data. And I'll get to your point by, first of all, sharing that GIZ data economy team and the Team Europe funded an Ushahidi project in Tana River in Kenya. And there was a clear correlation between gender and impact of climate change, right? And so the thing is, this is data that had to be crowdsourced and put into right now it's just a simple database, but we want to get to the point where that information can be part of an AI model so that when you ask it questions about Tana River in Kenya, it can give you that as specific, useful information. So to go back to your question, the biases are rooted in the fact that where is the data that is being used to train these models coming from? So we're not talking just about a gender divide or a digital divide. We're talking about a chasm. We're talking about a tectonic shift plate.
Give me an example of how it really affects the user.
So what happens
if they don't know that there's already bias in the data that has been put in?
So what happens is, let's say someone uses some of the popular chatbots, ChatGPT or U.com or Anthropic or others. There is a gap. Let's say they ask for locally specific, relevant information that they're seeking. Yet that model was not trained on that local context. They will likely get either erroneous information or things that are based on a different context and therefore not relevant and not useful. Worst of all, they could get results where the model is actually just hallucinating, right? And giving you wrong information. So these are problems that are baked in because, like Ms. Kawasaki said, that it's important to have women as part of product design, strategy, innovation, and we need to be in the room from the get-go, right? And I see gender and women issues as fundamental, right? So in all of your startups or the startups that you fund, let's not step back and not ask for a more representative team makeup. Because when those models were being made, when those technologies were being produced, if there are no women in the room, the input of how we see things and how we include the things that matter to us and to a host of many unrepresented groups is then missing.
So we'll talk about how to get more women in the room. For example, how to get more women into ICT leadership. But I now want to look at the Hamburg Declaration on responsible AI. What difference will it make, Ingrid? Is this just another paper that has been signed and is good for a press release? But I don't know if the CEOs in Silicon Valley are like, oh, there's something happening in Hamburg.
Well, the good news first, I think that we have already 40 signatories. So since yesterday, when we actually were in the room and signing it, I think it's going to set a standard. So, and many international organizations and partner countries have signed it on. So then when we now implement something in the digital space, if we invest into digital infrastructure, if we invest into language systems, etc., this is like our checklist, I would say, where we say, well, these are the standards that we have to observe. The safeguards, the gender equality issues, the prosperity issues, and the inclusiveness if we build up assistance. So I think it's going to develop worldwide a new, like, a guideline that has to be implemented, whatever we do in the space. This, of course, needs a lot of action internally, for instance, in institutions like GIZ, where we're going to embrace this wholeheartedly in our implementation.
But what does it mean for you to embrace it? Because GIZ, as far as I know, is not developing any AI. So you saying that we are okay with this is not OpenAI saying that we're also signatory.
Well, actually, I mean, for instance, we have developed, on behalf of the German government, we have developed language models. It's an open source development. It's fair forward. We are already like obeying to those standards. I mean, we have been a partner in elaborating those guidelines, the Hamburg Sustainability Declaration, and therefore some of our experiences, what is missing actually in the implementation we brought this to the process and to decision making. And of course, when we get, and we are working with tech firms, we are supporting startups, and then this is going to be like the set of criteria when we deal with them, where we also are going to require them to respect those guidelines. So it comes through the implementation of programs financed by the German government. And so it's going to have an impact because our portfolio in the space on digital transformation, on AI, is actually growing. We have been, of course, much more on the side of advising governments like in Kenya to get the right regulation in place.
Yes.
And this was
I'm going to put the same question to Florence. Florence, do you see the potential of the Hamburg Declaration on responsible AI?
I see a very huge potential. I see it as a stepping stone to leveling the playing fields for people who want to participate in the digital space. So it has great potential. I mean, personally, my organization is also endorsing the declaration, and we have commitment that we need to. And one of the questions I was asking, like, how do I measure myself? Like I said, we will train 60% of our beneficiaries who will be women. It means that I've committed to making sure that women get a quota whenever I'm doing a specific capacity building program, like skills development, which is a core component of ensuring that people get not only access, but they also get skills to be able to participate in the digital transformation age. So I believe that when you look at all the commitments we've done, I believe that if we all play our part well, it will go a long way to help to achieve the SDGs.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Cleo Kawawaki, I want to bring you back into the conversation. So how does your bank invest in gender-specific or gender-responsible AI?
I don't think we've ever actually specifically said AI investment, but it is one of the tools for like social protection. I mean, we want to use the data that we've gotten through the digital ID system to make sure what are the health outcomes, because it's all connected. And then you would well, hopefully use a good AI system to get that data and analyzed, and that's faster and better. So in that metadata system, I mean, the learned LMMs, it's not really gendered, right? Because that's data system. So there's not that much of fear of getting the wrong answer because, a whole bunch of bros, built AI. But what we do look at carefully is in the security and the hallucination system to make sure that there isn't some, and we have a system that tests out that doesn't happen. I don't think there's been really a case where we had that much of gendering in the AI projects that we've had.
Thank you. Now, there was something that was mentioned earlier, and that is digital media literacy. So we have an expert here on digital transformation. Her name is Jacqueline Sambila, and I want to bring you into the conversation now because you are an HSC Youth Ambassador. And I want to know from you, how important is it for girls and young women to be trained and to get that digital media literacy? What is your experience? Try it again. Yeah.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jacqueline. I am a digital economy intern at GIZ East Africa Community Headquarters in Arusha. And recently, we just validated the digital transformation strategy for the whole region, EAC, 8 countries. I'd like to base on my personal experience. I ran 2 projects. The first one was digital literacy for rural teenage mothers. I did that last year in Morogoro, Tanzania. And the second project that I'd like to base on is a She Tech incubator and accelerator. This is the women-led startups only. So we empowered them. During those journey, I learned 2 things. First of all, I'd like to agree with one of the panelists who spoke about the cultural barrier. I think this invisible patriarchy cultural barrier is stronger than the devices, the access to internet, because as a girl child, you're programmed from the beginning not to lean toward technology-related careers. It can mess with your mind. Yeah. So that's why I think it's stronger, the cultural aspect, than the devices. I think it's important for girls to be included in this digital era because there's so much for them to offer. First of all, the creativity and the future belongs to them. But also, when I was running the She Tech incubator, I realized that there's this invisible bias, or conscious or unconscious, when it comes to funding women-led startups. Yeah, I was listening to you and I was like, yes, I agree. Because most of the funding tends to go to the male-led startups. And I think we should change. And AI right now, I think there's a threat, technology-facilitated gender-based violence. There's such thing. This is a new concept, but a lot of young girls are being affected by this. Robotics, stalking online, so they don't know how to be safe in these platforms. So I think this Hamburg Declaration on responsible AI should not only be international. I think we as a youth ambassador have the responsibility to bridge, to translate everything we've learned here back at our home to our fellow youth, because we're representing them, and to practice, to tell them what it is about and how we can responsibly use AI and benefit the girls. That's it from me.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to build on your point where you said there are too few women-led tech startups. And I'm looking at the banker. You said that there are almost no women knocking on your door saying that they want, they need money from you to found a startup. So how do we get more women to come to your place and to create like a hub, for example, or to be a fintech leader? What do we do?
So, may I advertise a little bit?
Yeah, definitely.
We have the Asia Pacific Digital Transformation Forum at the end of this month in Manila. And at that point, we are sponsoring a hackathon with Google and for universities. And from that, we hope to get some women talent into the mix, and then to foster them to become actual tech entrepreneurs. I don't know how it's going to work out. This is the first one we've had, but that's my ambition. And then, of course, going back, I mean, to have, role models like yourselves, come to these events and show everyone that there are people who are successful that are tech. That's, I think, very important to have those role models. We have Wi-Fi, money in Vietnam. I mean, there's been a lot of work, but it's not enough. The digital content, we don't see it. So we have to work from the primary education all the way to the university education to make sure that women are seen as tech and STEM and capable of doing anything. And then from our other point, because then, they'll see themselves in that light. And then to have all of the digital public infrastructure with gender in mind, so that when they use the infrastructure, it's for them. It's not for, the application should be more engendered, so they make sure that, people use, like for the social infrastructures, the social systems. We've had developers come and give us software that's just had no input from women whatsoever. We're changing that. So I think for every stage of the way, in every conversation, when we talk about digital transformation, we have to have gender equality at its core.
Thank you. Yes, Juliana, I wanted to ask you about, again, having more women as tech leaders. How do we get the next Juliana? How do we get the next Florence? How do we get more people like Jackie? Who are your role models, and how did you get to where you are?
So there are three things that I'd like to share. So one, I'd like to acknowledge the men that are here. Because it is by having allies who not only teach their children the same way my dad and my uncle, I was interested in physics and math, and so they would sit with me and show me how to do all these things. And when I went to school, that was just sort of accepted and was normal that I would be interested in science. And to create that environment wherever we can, that way it's just normalized that you would want to be interested in whatever you're interested in, be it technology or whatever you're interested in, that it's fine, right? So that's number one. Number two is to continue the investments in small and medium enterprises and micro SMEs, because there is a demonstrable outsized impact in economies. Both Germany, I think Germany is one of the biggest examples of the impact of enterprises into the economy, right? So to continue to invest in SMEs and micro SMEs, to continue to drive financial inclusion, digital literacy, financial literacy, and financial empowerment. And the thing is, the dividend and the knock-on effect not only impacts women, but also society in general. Last but not least is to continue to invest in funds that provide that early stage capital that is needed, so that in my case, I was very fortunate that the startups that I have been involved in, it wasn't just myself. I had some other partners, men and women, and we were able to get some philanthropic patient capital that got us going, and we were able to really focus and scale and get the technology out there. So to take a chance and continue to fund either directly or indirectly, you can partner with, there are even women-specific ventures. There's an amazing woman called Jo Opot in Kenya. She has a company she has an organization called Gather Ventures, and she invests in clean tech. and to invest in this twin transition of both driving digital transformation and green energy. So they can go together.
Yes, so lots of points that you're making, and I'm sure that people are noting down what you've been saying, even mentioning partners that can be contacted for further information. Florence, how do we get more leaders or women into IT leadership and tech leadership?
I think I have 2 points. The first point, we need women-specific programs. And so what we've discovered is that when you just run a general program, like in Ghana, for instance, we have AI fellowship program for women, sponsored by GIZ. And I think such program encourage women that this program is just for us, so let's apply. If the program is just general, they are more likely that it's only for men. Like it's more like we can't compete. Like there is an inbuilt mentality that tech is for men, and so they don't encourage women to apply. So we need tech specific program for women. The second point is we need to also do more advocacy program to tell women they are just not consumers of technology. I mean, you see that women like pictures, they are on Instagram, they are just sharing things. No, you can also create an Instagram-like app. When you are creating it, you may create it differently from how like we mentioned, developers, they don't know about SDGs. So imagine if they are creating an application for SDG. It's biased automatically from the onset. So we need to educate women that they are just not consumers of application and technology. They can also be creators, architects, and also develop something that really works for them and also represent them.
Thank you very much.
I can give you 2 examples from South Africa.
Yeah,
we are working with Girl Code
I'm looking at the clock right here.
Yes. We are working with Girl Code Hackathon. And we team with MTN Ghana and a South African-based organization to only train 100 girls hackathon for 2 days intensive. And it worked. Girls showed up from universities, from everywhere. It was really highly encouraging. If I were just to do it a general program, you see 5 girls showing up out of 100.
Well, thank you. That is important to know, that kind of information. All right. I have one final question to all of you. I want to know one concrete action that must happen in 2025 to close the AI governance implementation gap for gender equality. What do we need to do? Just one thing that we need to do this year to close the AI governance implementation gap for gender equality. Anybody who wants to go first is welcome.
I'm happy to.
Yes, please, Juliana.
So one of the things that I'm working on is to, first of all, to increase the capacity of women leaders and leaders in general to be able to understand the shifts that are happening very fast in the AI space so that they can be creative in creating policy that can help to safeguard human rights and to safeguard the progress that we've made so far. And then last but not least, it's not only to be more AI literate, I advocate for us to infinitely learn, to integrate, and to integrate AI in ways where it's complementary, but always to keep in mind that we need to always have a human in the loop. So AI literacy, training for leaders to get them ready to make the decisions that they need to make and to make those in the right way.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Florence.
Okay, so globally, I think only 22% of women are AI professionals. They are not at the table and they are not participating in decision making. For us to make sure that we close this gap, we must invest in women leadership and ensure that they are at the table. We must also conduct gender impact assessments. The programs we've run before, what data can we get to actually inform future programs that we are doing? I think that is very important.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Hard question. Because we deal in the policy field with governments. I mean, I think our advocacy for having the gender aspect in mind for all AI governance would be where we would like to go, to keeping that in mind, and then to have best practices developed? Because right now, I don't know quite what the best practice in the government's regulations may be, policies may be. So that working all together with the private sector as well and other partners to come up with that governance proposals and then go with nudging and with our loans to change those policies for gender equality in AI or gender governance in AI. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to give the final word to Ingrid.
Well, I think we have seen the gap is actually growing. So we need a huge political commitment. And these in times that are not that easy. With the pullout of the United States in international cooperation at large, there's a huge financial gap. And what I've learned from your examples, there is some kind of investment to be taken. Unless we do so in early education, in leadership, training, in specific programs that address women and AI, we won't close the gap. So what we need is more cooperation, more investments. And if this is being brought across to leaders, I hope that they're going to react in the right way.
Thank you. So more cooperation, more investment, more role models. That is what we need to bridge that divide. Thank you so much. You've been a fantastic panel. Thank you to you, my wonderful audience. I wish you... Thank you. Thank you, Jackie.
Thanks to the moderator.
So enjoy the rest of your time here at the HSC, and I hope that we can continue with this conversation because this was just the beginning. We need to go further and further with this. Thank you very much.